I think he was forced into that simply because they had a Nox at the end of the day. When
Right.
you have that backline mage support that's trying to set up with control, the silence puddle into the roots, which HalfDevil had some good plays when they were chasing down emilitoo down the duo lane. They found a nice little double kill afterwards. But at the end of the day, the tanky rat couldn't really make its presence felt. I think the utility style between maniaK's Chang'e, EmilZy's Amaterasu was a little bit too much for SK to handle.
Yeah, they ended up being a little bit too reliant on Lawbster and Funballer's damage, and they were never really in a position, it felt like, to kind of follow up. So NRG ended up grabbing game 1, but can SK turn things around in game 2, Tolly? That feels like the question, but it looks like they're going to do it by being that second pick selection. NRG will be the one to the first pick overall. NRG
probably going to stick to their guns, honestly. It's not surprising that Adapting still goes for the Naja. During Season 2 Worlds against Cloud9 in the semifinals, that was his go-to god. It was the Fenrir and the Naja that provided a lot of victories for Adapting.
And I don't know how much time we've had to work with it, but I think we saw that emilitoo had the Berserkers in the middle of that game, sort of like the third item or so. There's been some thoughts that maybe it's not quite as strong on those Hunters, but I mean, emilitoo was able to make it work on the Chernobog.
I don't know what was going on with emilitoo's build, because after selling that, he goes for Silver Branch Bow.
He did, yeah.
Which makes sense, where if you're going to overcap, you might as well go Silver Branch Bow, but after he uses Vicious Barrage with that build that he had at the end of the game, he was only at 2.64% attack speed, right? Which is only giving you about 7 additional power for 12 seconds. Not the most ideal choice of a pickup.
Yeah, not a ton more power really coming out from that one, but some interesting build paths being gone there in the last game. I love to see players experimenting with them, as Chernobog absolutely will be picked up again. This could go back to emilitoo. It could go to Yammyn. Again, some flex potential here.
The global pressure, you can't really deny it, especially when maniaKK is going to be trying to play aggressive up against Ducky. That Living Nightmare are going to be so fruitful for those solo lane games.
And I like this, though. He did pick the Ratatoskr, which is early game last game for Faeles, but built it rather tanky. This time, still with some early game presence, but it's going to be with the Ravana. But perhaps even more early game is a Thanatos. So, hey, maybe Adapting wants to beat him at his own game. And a Zeus. That's a lot of damage, Tolly.
That is a lot of damage.
Ton of damage.
And that's good when you're trying to set up for the execute. You don't always have to find the last hit with the detonate from the Zeus. As long as you can provide him under that 30% health threshold, Adapting should be able to clean up. This doesn't really strike me as a maniaKK solo lane pick, so this should be going in the jungle.
Yeah, I imagine that's where we're going to be seeing that pick as Zhong comes through. I don't mind that sort of as a response, right? If you see all that damage, you might want to get someone who can be somewhat tanky and maybe get away from it. Hopefully they'll be able to get that done. But this is a scary first 3 picks for NRG. SK have some tools to answer back, but is Zeus really going to be under that much duress? Is really just the Ravana diving him you're thinking about.
But Ravana is good enough to dive you with the Mystic Rush, giving you damage mitigation, being able to isolate you with the Prada Onslaught slow, with the root in place. And if you time it well enough, you can overhead kick the execute, the detonate damage. So this is a good pickup for Faeles to be able to survive a lot of this burst damage.
Going to be a lot riding on him, I feel like, to make sure that he's able to sort of keep this Zeus in check, as I imagine that will be going over to Yammyn. Chulainn going to come through as well. Got to think that's their solo lane pick. Meanwhile, the Jing has come through already as that sort of safety pick for SK.
No surprise there. Funballer going to try to make sure that he transitions well in that mid-game up against the late-game Chernobog status. Chulainn should be going to maniaKK.
Yes.
No surprise there. This is one of his heavily preferred gods.
But this is pressure everywhere for NRG, right? I mean, they're going to have the Chernobog in the duo lane, which can pressure so quickly. Zeus in the middle lane for so much damage. Thanatos as well. I mean, it feels like NRG kind of want to get that ball rolling right away.
And I love this Khepri choice, because the Rising Dawn will mitigate a lot of the Zhong damage. Whenever Adapting is going into the backline, you're going to have the Scarab's Blessing to just peel him back into your team fight. So SK Gaming have a tall task in game number 2, but they could utilize this Janus last pick to be able to weave in and out of the action.
Yeah, between that and the Athena, they have a lot of ability to sort of move around the map quickly. Is that enough to win y'all over out there and get your vote for SK? Or do you think NRG are going to be able to close it out right here, right now, and sort of get their fall split back on track after a rough start they had right at the beginning? You got to be able to win games like this.
I think NRG should be able to carry the momentum from game 1 into this one.
Or we're leaning a little bit towards NRG, at least here on the desk. Let's get it back over to Tom and talk over the cast and see how the picks all end up working in action.
Thanks a lot, guys. Great job on the desk, as always. Adapting, rocking the Thanatos. You know, I'm excited. Gotta love this character. Yammyn rocking the Zeus. You know, Aggro's excited. You don't have to love that.
I'm waiting for him to break through the door, like Kool-Aid Man kind of deal, just like Batista bomb you out of the tier 1 position and just take over.
Yeah. Hey, aggro, don't do that. That'd be problematic. I wouldn't want to be Batista bomb and just I'm wearing like a nice.
I wouldn't want to
today.
see aggression come in today.
I'm wearing a nice.
That guy's hard to work with.
I mean, he can be pretty tough. But I like when he buys me lunch. So that's where I'm at right now for today's Tuesday broadcast. I like when he buys me lunch. Yammyn on the Zeus here. It's gonna be all about just dishing out the damage. SK Gaming trying to take advantage here and look for an early red buff invade. HalfDevil by himself. I don't know what the call was here, but not my favorite. But still, a portal gets HalfDevil out of trouble. Interesting. Shouts to the 9%. The SK faithful there.
I really thought HalfDevil was about to suicide at level 1 because charging right into the midst of 3 members from NRG that have uncontested control over that red buff, I would argue, was a fairly risky move by HalfDevil. He's willing to take the chances though. Risk first reward after all. At least he will have the red buff timer knowledge for SK, so they might be able to contest on the next respawn and won't be as simple for NRG to just walk right down there.
Yeah, and I did miscall it. That's HalfDevil in his own jungle, so it's a little bit less egregious than going for the invade by yourself. But at the same time, you know, a little bit tough. Does wind up sneaking his way out of there though. Nice job. But NRG do confirm the red buff, so already starting things off hot, adapting on that Thanatos, certainly looking for the early game struggle.
What's concerning is, as well as Lawbster can avoid the damage and pressure from adapting in Yammyn, that doesn't necessarily mean that he'll be able to keep up in terms of XP, because NRG, having the Thanatos Zeus combination is just so likely to bully SK out of the game or out of the jungle early on for NRG to build up a decent lead, I think, before SK really has a chance to try and respawn appropriately. And SK, they just have to sit on their hands and kind of bide their time until they are able to reach stage where they feel comfortable with contesting, because if it's too soon, you're going to end up wiping, but if it's too late, then NRG just takes everything for free anyway.
Exactly, and SK also kind of, you know, torn, because if you aggress too soon, then you walk into a Thanatos. If you aggress too late, then you walk into a Zeus. You know what I mean? You've got to find the sweet spot to really mess with this composition that NRG have crafted here. SK Gaming, it's going to be a tall task.
And happy medians are not always easy to find, especially looking at maniaKK. He played it safe on that Chang'e last time around, but now looking to go hyper-aggressive, I think, at the Ducky on the Zhong, not really wanting to allow Ducky any chances to farm up safely. I wouldn't be too surprised either if Adapting decided to prioritize ganking Ducky just to keep him further suppressed. Doesn't really have too much worry over Funballer in this duo lane. Funballer on the Jing way. Very low kill potential early on. She is a god that kind of relies on items before you really see her starting to duke it out.
Yeah, for sure. And there's a couple of characters like that in this matchup, but I think you're right to really focus on what she's going to be able to do there. maniaKK on the Chulainn as well. This is, you talk about pressure. This is one of his premier characters. He was on the top 3 as far as plays of the week, you know, earlier this week. And his ability to really just control the situation on Chulainn is so very scary. I think Chulainn has become one of the characters that I'm most really afraid of when maniaKK takes it onto the battlefield.
Ooh, nice route there from EmilZy. Going to end up catching both Lawbster and Faeles. Lawbster now falling a little bit low, forced to portal away. Doesn't want to risk any further aggression, and Yammyn Chain Lightnings as well. Faeles has to be more mindful to not stand as close to Lawbster, because Yammyn's going to look for one of them every single time.
And the Chain Lightning bounce just not too difficult to really go for. Ultimate available for Adapting now that he's hit level 5, and you should start paying attention. Thanatos is going to look for the ganks now, use that ultimate to initiate for the first couple of minutes, and then later on use it for the execute. So we'll see where Adapting goes on this early game pressure pick.
And this is a double whammy from NRG also, because not only does Adapting have the execute that he can play around, but you've also got EmilZy in case you mess up with the revive.
Yep.
The Scare's Blessing is going to cost a slew of problems, I feel, for SK here, because they're going to have to rely on continuous aggression in order to find the picks and in order to force out that Scare's Blessing over and over again. But keeping that ultimate on cooldown means that you're probably not going to be winning those fights up front.
Probably not, yeah. You've got to make sure that you're able to deal with what the opposition is going to give you. Are SK in a position to really force that out, though?
I think they can force it. The problem is what they do after the fact. It is determined by how much they invest initially to try and pull that cooldown in the first place, if not find the kill to begin with. I think also that NRG just have so much burst damage that if SK don't get out immediately, they will end up wiping.
And that's the problem, because I mean, even if they do get out, Yammyn's going to still have the detonate available, and it's going to be pretty rough. Lawbster will be able to allow his teammates to get on out, right? HalfDevil has access to his global.
But even assuming that SK don't fight, this game could be no first blood for the first 20 minutes. And, well, actually, hold that thought, because Faeles might end up being first blood. He's not careful. Slick portal, though, from Lawbster, going to end up getting Faeles out of danger right away. But that scythe damage is already starting to rise up pretty quickly.
Rise up. Trouble as adapting. Trying to just do the thing. And yeah, Death Scythe. What a ridiculous ability. Right now it's doing 310 plus 60% of its power, so that's booties. And then also percentage, 10% of your maximum, or a whole bunch of percentage HP as well. It's kind of scary. It's healing you up, slows them. It's very, very nuts.
Just look at how aggressive adapting can afford to be. This blue buff might not even belong to SK any longer. EmilZy going for the pool and onto HalfDevil. Scythe does manage to connect, and that prompts adapting to move forward. Now HalfDevil's on the run, but he's in that execute threshold. And sure enough, adapting the King's never going to miss out on that one. The silence won't manage to connect, but Faeles still in a world of trouble. Mystic Rush managing to get him out of danger.
Nice job by Faeles to make sure he takes down at least one player for the trade out. NRG are ahead. We're ahead by 1,000 before first blood, so it's still going to be a nice look for them at the moment. But adapting could get collapsed on. No, he's got his own teammates, so he's totally fine. Nice first blood for the Thanatos. But as I said, shout out to Faeles for picking up the kill onto Yammyn. Not quite a tie game, but SK at this point, if you're going to lose something, you got to take something.
Bit of a sacrificial lamb moment there for Yammyn. Seemed like everybody from NRG kind of split off into their own directions. They had their own ideas in mind for as to who they wanted to target focus, so NRG maybe wanted to be a little bit more precise in terms of working together, but early on, it can still be beneficial for adapting to do his own thing.
Going into I think that's going to be a Glad Shield?
For adapting?
Adapting.
Possibly. It could also be an early Void Shield or an early Shifter Shield.
And,
I think that being able to reduce the physical protections could be strong, but he might even be taking a page out of Aquarius' build with the shield build.
Yeah, just a whole bunch of shields. Yeah, could be the way to go. Thanatos historically has seen a number of different ways to go. I like tank Thanatos. I think Thanatos scales very well with CDR because of the fact that Scythe does large base damage and also percent value. So if you're casting it more often, you're doing more damage than if you're building power for the 60%, contribution. Plus, more executes, baby, right?
It's the one-shot dream, though. It's really a lot on the player preference, I think, for this regard, but adapting, if he does decide to go a little bit more hybrid and a little bit tankier on the Thanatos, I think because he has Yammyn and emilitoo, it'll still work out really well for the team.
Exactly.
And in the early game, he can definitely still abuse the Thanatos power spike overall, which is already generating enough problems for SK. You can tell just from how passively they are playing inside of their mid-tower line that they do not feel comfortable pushing past halfway mark, which means that Yammyn's been steadily but surely chipping away at that T1 and mid, and eventually it's going to reach a point where it's not even safe to stand under, and NRG will just dive it.
Yeah, I mean, this is still the point. Adapting has about 3 or 4 more levels where he's able to just, well, maybe 2 or 3 more levels, where he's able to ult, scythe, basic, silence, and you're dead if you're Lawbster or Funball here. So players playing very, very carefully. Got to be careful of that one. And then like we said, adapting can build tanky because in the late game, it's not his job to really do all that. Yammyn's playing frickin' Zeus, okay? This is the damage dealer. What else does Zeus do? So Adapting's job is not to deal damage in the late game. Yammyn's going to bring him down, and if they do survive, Adapting will just land.
Speaking of damage, check out that second item for Yammyn. He understands his duty this match, and the Ratatouille Rush is something that we don't get to see very often, but I love it here.
I like it too. This item is only 200 more gold than Chronos Pendant, and it's an item that, I mean, brings you 150 magical power. That's absurd, right? And with the new way it works for the new way that it works, it's not for every god, but Yammyn is going to be doing. He's going to look to detonate at the tail end of somebody's lifespan anyway. So this item, I like it in the second position more than people would like it, period, but specifically on characters like Zeus that are looking to deal the last bit of damage.
This is Yammyn not wanting to let Lawbster portal away. That's the build you go for when you don't want to let the Janus escape for free. And right now, Lawbster completely understanding of that as well, just choosing to try and play it as safely as possible with his positioning. He has not been pushing up very far, if hardly at all. Even with Faeles right next to him, this Ravana has not been able to compensate for the early game out of energy. It's just too much all across the board in comparison to SK, who really only have this Ravana to rely on for early pressure.
Yeah, the Ravana has been able to sort of keep everybody at bay, but not really make any plays of his own, which I suppose is to be expected against this composition. EmilZy being controlled, but SK looking in the other direction. Faeles going to be grabbed up, but EmilZy one more time controlled. Nice play by Lawbster as SK put themselves on the board, and Faeles going to follow up, make that 2 kills for SK. Nice slip on through the portal, but Adapting's waiting right on the other side. Emil used the ultimate, so HalfDevil a little bit slow, and he's going to meet up with maniaKK.
Beautiful portaling so far, though, from Lawbster, helping get his teammates out of danger there. That was just too quick for EmilZy to do anything about it, and that is what SK have to make happen every single time. That was just EmilZy trying to convince his team to back him up there with the follow-up, but he was just a little bit too sparse spread from the rest of energy. They couldn't close the gap in time, and that resulted in the through space and time with the quick unstable vortex. Easy peasy lemon squeezy, but the chances of SK finding that exact moment continuously, that's where the problems start to surface.
Lawbster right here, yeah, the portals have been really slick. Even going back to HalfDevil getting in trouble for what could have been first blood at that first red buff. Small little portal just to give his teammate a couple of inches of wiggle room was enough. And even on her game as well, the pillar placement was really nice. It's just old school. I don't want to call it fundamentals. It's like that next level of finesse. And Lawbster, I mean, I mentioned all the time, he's one of the longest Smite playing players we have. And you have to expect that level of precision is the word that I want to use from Lawbster.
Whenever Lawbster is intending to play a god in a utility manner, it's like his map awareness just reaches another level in comparison to some of the other pros in the scene. I think that also just comes with the veteran status that Lawbster has attained throughout his many years of playing Smite. You just understand things a little bit better. Which is
why I think, you know, we all, maybe now at the fall split, we're all bald from doing it so much, but we've all scratched our head about this SK team for so long. You know, I mean, I look at the mid lane, I look at the Hunter, and these guys are good. HalfDevil was a September call-up, if you will. I mean, this guy was out of Smite for so long, in the minor league for a split, and SK just were on fire. They needed a support, so they bring him up. You know, Faeles, this is one of his better games. If Faeles played like this from the beginning of the spring split, I think we could have seen a different SK here in the fall, but Faeles right now, I think the right side of the map has been problematic for SK, and when you see the prowess that some of the other teammates have, you ask yourself a lot of questions. But then we see these flashes of SK doing things well, and you go, all right, that's why they keep them around. I need consistency, though. This is a great roster on paper, but I need more consistency from more than just a couple of players.
Moments of brilliance can definitely bring you home a highlight reel, but they won't get you a trophy unless the consistency starts to take place. Speaking of which, EmilZy going to get taunted in by HalfDevil there, but SK choosing to just disengage. Energy has had steady control over these oracles, and that's problematic for SK because it's just map vision that SK has to constantly keep track of themselves, via wards in comparison to NRG, who have the vision for free. So there's no chances for SK to try and sneakily steal this one away. It's just too easy for NRG to respond in time, and also now they have to worry about NRG's burst capabilities as well for the Gold Fury. Their objective play, I would argue, is infinitely stronger than SK's.
Yeah, without a doubt. It's also the gold, right? I mean, 500 from First Blood, sure, but the other 1,500, towers aren't down. That's part of just routinely getting those oracles over and over again. A couple of red buff invades here and there. And SK are just trailing.
Blue buff invade that just took place.
Yep.
Lawbster gonna get trapped right now from emilZy, but will make it through the portal through space and time, having to be expended. Looked like it might have clipped adapting there as well, but so far so good for Lawbster. He's out of danger and he's alive and kicking, but without that through space and time, this could be a power play moment for NRG.
Yeah, they're certainly going to be looking for it. They realize that the mid laner has been very slippery so far. HalfDevil grabbed up. There's help from Yammyn. Nobody's standing in the rainstorm. Faeles going to use the ultimate to escape, but maniaKK finds him on the back line. Hits him with one, hits him with the other. The 1-2 punch from the solo laner. And maniaKK gets the kill. Nice play there to put Faeles down. 2-2-1 for the UK jungler. And NRG now tie it in the kill count as well. It's 3-3.
And they're not done with it just yet. Everybody started running straight for that Gold Fury as soon as the mid tower fell. SK don't have that avenue of escape. Should they look to contest this objective here, Funballer could possibly jump in now, but it's adapting, looking for HalfDevil.
Yammyn's ult is down. This isn't a terrible fight for SK if you ignore the numbers situation. HalfDevil has to back, does have the ultimate available, but Ducky already used the ultimate. That's going to be problematic. SK Gaming now watching as the Gold Fury is going down. maniaKK playing zone, but Ducky coming through. He's got the ultimate of Athena right along the side.
Great Aegis timing there out of Yammyn. It might have been enough. Adapting going to find Lawbster. Ducky and HalfDevil make it through the portal just in time, but through space and time, almost working against SK in that second. Because now Ducky way too low to try and dare venture into this Gold Fury pit. Understands that he'd probably just end up joining the rest of his team back in the fountain. He might get there anyway if maniaKK decides to continue chasing him, but thinking better of it. maniaKK doesn't want to risk overextending. Will just fall back here. Huge swing, though, for NRG, and they were already starting to break away with the lead.
Wasted ultimate coming out from Ducky. I don't know. Taco, I want to say that once Ducky ults and everybody disengages, HalfDevil's back at base, I want to say that you call it, and you just give them Gold Fury. Ducky gets the ultimate from HalfDevil. You know that NRG's not going to bring Gold Fury down to a close enough level where you can steal it. You know that at this point. They already have a 3,000 gold lead. I think after Ducky blows the ult, you just get out.
I don't think it's so much Ducky blowing the ult as much as it is NRG just having great tools to force it. Right now, Faeles under aggression one more time, gonna end up Mystic rushing away, but Zeus ultimate has been expended, and now it's just a full-on brawl. Yammyn's getting the Scarab's Blessing, so he's just looking to continue aggressing, and Lawbster just trying to get out of town, but emilitoo won't let it happen.
2 for the Chernobog as HalfDevil's gonna sit down. Ducky in trouble, and adapting comes from the sky, cuts down Ducky, and with 3 players down for the count, SK Gaming don't have a horse in this one. Fire Giant gonna go down to NRG.
The patience from adapting and the understanding as well from the rest of his team. They knew they just had to get Ducky into that execute threshold. They don't care what happens afterwards. As long as adapting can finalize on that pick, then that's all they needed to take place. And adapting, sure enough, not going to squander a moment like that when the alley-oop is just right in front of him.
And that's why we see him moving away from power. At this point, he's done being a damage dealer. The amount of damage that he can deal from long-range Death Scythe with 1 or 2 offensive items, good enough, right? He can silence and he can provide some damage. But what did he do in that team fight? He threw out a Death Scythe, he silenced a bunch of people, and then towards the end just ulted and waited over the tanky person. I mean, it's a 40% threshold that you need to bring somebody down to. When you're looking at Ducky or HalfDevil being extremely tanky, cutting 40% off of the kill threshold is gigantic. And adapting, I mean, that's more damage than you can do with a player on the ground. So great job there from the jungle Thanatos. And because of it, off of the back of largely what Yammyn was able to do, double kill from emilitoo as well. SK Gaming trailing by about 10,000 gold. NRG poised to look for the win in game number 2 as well.
And the problem for SK now is that they're essentially on the hunt for scraps. Faeles having to go so far as to even just invade the jungle of energy during that time period that they backed to find whatever little bits of XP he can actually gather. Lawbster and the rest of SK kind of just struggling here to find anything available on the map for farm. And the problem is, as well, they're also being forced to split this more than just one way. It's 2-way, 3-way, at times even 4-way splits of experience, and that's not going to catch SK up anytime soon. And all the while, NRG, they're just looking to run it down the left-hand side.
Yeah.
Probably going to end up stripping away this T2 and then looking to close things out with the T2 in mid as well. SK are doing their best to try and push out the waves as far as possible, maybe looking or hoping to buy themselves a little bit of time, but with HalfDevil so far away in the right-hand side, just now starting to back, emilitoo and friends, they're just going to start pushing away.
Yeah, there's no reason not to. Yammyn has a fantastic ability for sieging. EmilZy does have a revive. NRG going to play it a little bit carefully, though. Backing off, waiting for the ambush, it looks like. Adapting, going to bait a couple of players here. And SK ready to gank on the second tower.
Despite their lead, NRG are still giving this much respect to SK. Probably because they also remember what happened in the last game when they were a little bit more careless about looking for the Phoenix Sieges. SK can and will punish NRG should they over-aggress and spread out a little bit too far. emilitoo going to use that Living Nightmare just to give vision and a slow onto all the members from SK, landing right back where he started from, looking to just take down this mid-Phoenix.
Yeah, going to silence out Ducky for the moment. maniaKK trying to zone out the Hunter as well. emilZy keeping Faeles busy, and half HP on the objective so far. Adapting, going to go to the sky. There's Ducky's ultimate. Where's he hitting? Emil's hitting Ducky. And Adapting comes up empty-handed as he hits the player that Emil was already sent to the grave.
4v5 now for SK. Still looking to try and defend. Pretty good holdout during that ultimate from Ducky, but without their Zhong, it's just going to get more complicated. These Phoenixes are slowly being chunked away at.
Yeah, HalfDevil quickly being chunked away at. emilZy does lose a bunch of his HP, but Funball could lose all of it. Aegis is gone, and so is Funball. Now Faeles trying to collapse on Adapting and maniaKK. Left side Phoenix taken care of. And that's the all-retreat call. NRG now shifting over to the mid lane Phoenix.
I like the placement from emilitoo of that crystallized curses in case anybody lingers a little bit too long there from SK hesitating to go in. Speaking of hesitations, HalfDevil already looking to just take up the brunt of the damage here as maniaKK just chases out Lawbster, still looking to find this Janus all the way in the fountain.
maniaKK's doing whatever he wants. Level 19 on the Chulainn. Worth noting his jungler is above him. But maniaKK is 2 levels above anybody he really wants to mess with on SK Gaming. And so nobody can really walk up to the Chulainn at all.
This also felt like one of the more impressive sets from maniaKK. I think that typically... all that thought, though. Adapting forced up into that hovering death, just trying to look for the quick getaway through space and time from Lawbster. Had a strong vision in mind, I think, to try and chase down NRG while they were low. They might be able to find emilZy here. He doesn't have that Scarab's... Or he does have the Scarab's Blessing, actually, to save himself.
And he will use it. Ducky on the back line is going to get Yammyn. Here's emilZy. Could be in trouble. The Alpha HalfDevil's going to show up. emilZy still alive. Tier 1 tower still standing as well. Back at the Titan. It's a one-on-one. emilitoo trying to take it down by himself, but Funball's here for the fight. Couple of basics from Funball will do it. emilitoo can win the fight, though. Where is it? HalfDevil shows up. Down goes the Hunter. And SK Gaming, with the most literal of Hail Marys we've seen, tosses the portal right down Broadway, shoves the entire team on the chase. NRG lose a member underneath the Tier 1 tower, and they lose the member trying to win the game as well. All that said, at best, it's a stall. SK Gaming wanted to come up with more. Taco, I love the play. I really do love the play. I just needed to see more kills.
I think the problem as well, though, for SK is that at best they find 1 or 2 picks, and emilitoo able to teleport pretty much to their side of the map as long as somebody's in base, just sieged his opportunity, and it was unfortunate that Funballer was able to hold off just long enough for the rest of the team to come in. No such thing as a 1v1 when it comes to competitive play.
Well, I think what SK were hoping for as the ultimate forced out of Lawbster by the enemy jungler. I think what SK was hoping for really was get a couple more kills, 2 or 3, and then force the fire giant, right? Because you're not going to be able to defend the fire giant in real life because there's fire minions coming into your base. You can't take the 5-on-5. But if you can snipe away 2 or 3 players, get the fire giant, now all of a sudden you're in a position to really defend your phoenixes. There was a great vision. And whoever's call that was, I still tip my cap to them. I think that was the moment you get to leave your base because you're not leaving your base anytime soon outside of that scenario. And so SK come up short, and NRG right now in position to take this one home.
I'm with you on that. I don't think that SK are going to have another opportunity like that one to try and run down NRG unless it is another extended sieging moment from NRG. They were at SK's Phoenixes for quite some time. Struggled a little bit to even find one of them. Had they not taken down Ducky, I'm not even all that confident that NRG would have been able to siege those 2 Phoenixes.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
It was close enough, I think, with Ducky there and the way that they were able to push back off the mid Phoenix. Granted, that's also factoring in every single ultimate from SK being expended, but Lawbster's Janus gameplay has been rather impressive throughout this. Even though NRG have had a very clear advantage since the start of this match with their early game pressure, SK have done the best they can at dealing with it.
Nitpicking here, I think a Gem of Isolation would work for Ducky to help control NRG. One of the things that's going on here is NRG is just running through these team fights, and it's really keeping SK on their heels. Adapting in the mid lane. Bird's about to come right back up, so he'll look for it as soon as it spawns. Right side Phoenix already down. maniaKK zoning out 2 players. Not down just yet. I might have counted my chickens a little bit early. Here's the ultimate from Ducky. As the Titan from left lane already being aggressed on. Lawbster in his own fountain is in trouble, but Ducky goes down to the hand of adapting. maniaKK is going to take care of Faeles, and he's going to chase players to the fountain. HalfDevil goes there the hard way, and SK Gaming's Titan, half HP already. emilZy going to use the ultimate on himself. Not good enough for SK, and NRG take the set.
NRG just running through SK at the end there. They just came charging down that right-hand side, and there was no one left to try and stop them. I think that maniaKK did a great job pressuring Funballer all the way back to the fountain, keeping him locked away from engaging in the team fight. No DPS from your ADC means that everything is pressured onto Faeles and Lawbster to try and make up for it. But then you had adapting also coming in with the choke side, or a choke point on the side, and it was just too much for them to handle. They were not expecting that flank to happen so soon. Adapting did a great job there by split pushing into the mid lane to allow those fire creeps to begin pouring into the base.
Well, who's going to be the MVP? That's the question we ask you guys out there in Mixer Chat. For my money, I mean, honestly, it could go to a lot of different people. I really liked what Adapting did. I really liked what Yammyn did as well. I think the mid-jungle synergy really made things happen here in game number 2.
They definitely were on point throughout this match. I think that emilZy also did a great job working alongside of Yammyn. A couple of hiccups here and there for the two, but they were probably under the most pressure. And emilZy, sometimes you have to make that split-second decision of ulting yourself or the teammate. And I think considering how things were going for NRG, he could afford to take a couple of those moments greedily.
It's certainly possible. That does it for the set. NRG take SK down 2-0. For a deeper look, we join John Finch.
Thanks, Taco. Thanks, Congressman F. Finch and Tolley here. As we move into the post-game, just talk a little bit about what happened there in that last set. Because it's another one where the early game I felt like looked pretty even between them. I think Adapting kind of kept them in it, but it again started to kind of get away from SK in that mid-game.
The beginning was very even to the point where there was a 1-for-1 trade where Adapting was aggressive on the right side back camps, but things started to unravel naturally for NRG during that 16-minute mark around the goal. Fury fails, a little bit too ambitious, tried to go onto Yammyn by himself, gets detonated on. It was a great dive by maniaKK to find the pick, and then NRG get the goal Fury, get 2 more picks, and then not even 2 minutes later, when SK Gaming's only down about 4,000 gold, maybe 5,000 tops, NRG just forced the Fire Giant, leash it back, force a team fight, and we're able to really start snowballing from there because yet again, Faeles was just a little bit out of position by himself.
And NRG really are so good at passing the baton, as selected as the MVP was maniaKK by all you out there in Mixer chat, because it was adapting in the early game that kind of got them going, but then it was this dive under the tier 1 that maniaKK got up, and this kind of passed the baton to emilitoo. I believe he picks up a double kill around that Fire Giant not too much later on the back end of that as well. They do such a good job at whoever is strong at each stage of the game, letting that person be who they play through until they're able to eventually just kind of overwhelm you.
And that play right there, when the portal came through out of Lawbster, and everyone from NRG collapsed on the portal knowing that there was going to be multiple members coming through, capitalizing on that with 2 free picks, able to dominate with the Goal Fury objective and just continue on the right side of the map eventually.
And they had a nice play, at least I thought that was going to come through, where Lawbster drops that through space and time sort of on the right side of the map after a big push by NRG, and Adapting has to ultimate away. They're able to chase down emilZy as well. I thought they had a chance to maybe turn that one around, but they just couldn't make that play work.
Too far behind, unfortunately, at that point. The goal disparity was too high to even count at times. So NRG yet again find another 2-0 victory against SK without dropping a map during the spring or summer. Continue the streak now in the fall.
Yeah, kind of continuing their dominance up against SK. We'll see if they can improve later on as NRG continues to look strong. Let's go ahead and see what that means for both of these teams with those standings. NRG now much closer back up to that top at 3-2. Again, they've played a little bit more than everyone else. We'll see Obey later on during the day. SK Gaming still struggling, though. As we are approaching that halfway mark, though, they've got a chance to sort of regroup, reset, and try and keep pushing forward.
There will be their time in the sun yet again to try to go for a rematch up against NRG, seeing what SK have learned from this set and what they can take in the future. But for the meantime, NRG have been really solid, and needing to be even more solid to catch up to them as rival in this next set.